Hi. Sometimes you launch an old game and immediately feel its age, and sometimes you don't. The controls are precise, the pacing is sharp, the mechanics work as if the game was made just recently. Creates a strange feeling. This game shouldn't feel this modern. This video is about projects that refuse to age. Games where game design mattered more than trends and ideas proved stronger than time. They don't ask for age-related excuses and don't forgive compromises. You just start playing and they work. There's no nostalgia here, only games that even today look sound and feel like the industry is still trying to catch up to them. Let's start with Singularity. This is a rare example of a shooter that successfully combines fast-paced action with experimental time manipulation mechanics. The core gameplay revolves around a mobile time manipulation device that allows the player to age or rejuvenate objects and enemies. This isn't just a visual gimmick. It opens up interesting tactical possibilities. For example, slowing down enemies or using aging effects to turn them into dust right before your eyes. The ability to throw, freeze, and reanimate parts of the environment makes every firefight unpredictable, even years after release. Beyond its time mechanics, the game also features several light RPG elements, including an ability progression system and upgradable weapons. Combat against mutants and soldiers is mixed with puzzles that require combining gunplay and time manipulation to move forward through the levels. Metal Gear Solid. This is not just an open-world stealth action game, it's a full sandbox where every mission becomes a unique challenge. The flexible mission structure lets you choose the order and method of completing objectives, while enemy AI genuinely adapts to your playstyle. Rely too often on stealth takedowns and enemies start wearing protective gear. Play aggressively and their numbers increase. Another defining feature is the dynamic world with weather systems and a day-night cycle that directly affect tactics. Fog, sandstorms, or nighttime conditions can completely change your approach. Between missions, you develop your own base by capturing enemies, resources, and even wild animals, unlocking new weapons, vehicles, and equipment. This blend of open-world design, stealth, progression, and tactical freedom is what keeps the game feeling alive to this day. Syndicate. This is a futuristic shooter built around a unique neural chip system. You play as a corporate agent equipped with a special chip that allows you not only to see through cover, but also to use a variety of abilities, from slowing down time for precise shots to detonating enemy chips, forcing them to destroy themselves or temporarily fight on your side. In addition to its original mechanics, the game offers an engaging 4-player co-op mode, where teamwork is essential, reviving teammates, synchronizing abilities, and competing for the best performance. While the story may feel predictable, it's the chip-based gameplay systems and incredibly satisfying gunplay that makes Syndicate a memorable and surprisingly fresh experience even years after its release. Crisis. Even today, it feels like a technological experiment that somehow ended up far ahead of its time. The main reason is the nanosuit, which gives the player full control over their playstyle. Armor, speed, strength, and cloaking can be switched on the fly, turning every encounter into a tactical puzzle. The game encourages situational analysis. Flank enemies, attack from above, destroy the environment, or quickly reposition. This level of freedom is still rare, even in modern shooters. Special attention should be given to the systemic open levels, where destructible environments make every encounter unpredictable. Palm trees snap, huts collapse, cover disappears right in the middle of combat, and these aren't scripted moments, but part of the simulation itself. Dragon's Dogma. What stands out first and foremost is its combat system. You're not just hitting monsters, you climb onto their bodies, grab their limbs, knock them off balance, and use the environment during fights. Every encounter with large enemies turns into a dynamic set piece where it's not just damage numbers that matter, but your understanding of enemy weak points, height, stamina, and timing. The second key feature is the pawn system, which feels far more intelligent than a typical AI companion. Your allies learn from your actions, remember tactics, point out enemy weaknesses, and adapt to the player's combat style. Instead of feeling like dead weight, they actively participate in decision-making and combat support. That's exactly why Dragon's Dogma still feels bolder and fresher than many modern games. BioShock Infinite. What makes it stand out is how it blends fast-paced shooting with cinematic presentation into a single cohesive experience. Combat is built around vertical space. Skylines let you reposition instantly, attack from unexpected angles, and maintain a high combat tempo. Another major strength is Elizabeth. She doesn't just follow the player, she actively contributes to combat and exploration. She throws you ammo, uses her abilities, and is integrated into gameplay so organically that she never gets in the way. Combined with the plasmid system, alternate weapon modes, and spectacular set pieces, Infinite still feels like a confident, modern project rather than a game from a past generation. Titanfall 2. It stands out for its bold and inventive approach to single-player campaign design. Almost every level introduces a new mechanic or idea that completely changes the rules of play. Time manipulation, vertical labyrinths, dynamically shifting arenas, and perfectly tuned parkour. At the same time, the game never overstays its ideas. It introduces a mechanic, fully explores it, and then moves on before the gameplay can stagnate. That kind of pacing and design confidence is rare even in modern shooters. The interaction between pilot and Titan also deserves special attention. On-foot combat and mech battles feel like two distinct yet perfectly complementary playstyles. The controls are responsive, the shooting is precise, and the mobility makes every encounter dynamic and visually impressive. Alien Isolation. Instead of relying on jump scares, the game focuses on constant tension, with the Xenomorph's AI playing a central role. The creature doesn't follow scripted paths or directly adjust to the player. It learns, observes, and reacts to your behavior. Repeated use of hiding spots, noisy gadgets, or specific routes makes you predictable, and the game punishes you for it. This is reinforced by a powerful atmosphere, minimal UI, scarce resources, and a slow exploration pace. You never feel in control, you're always one step behind the threat. It's this combination of adaptive AI and audiovisual presentation that makes Isolation feel disturbingly relevant even today. Spec Ops: The Line. At first glance, The Line looks like a typical military shooter of its era, but beneath that surface lies a radically different approach to storytelling. The game deliberately uses familiar genre mechanics and clichés to slowly subvert the player's expectations. You keep following orders, engaging in firefights, and pushing forward, but with every hour it becomes clearer that the game is questioning your actions and motivations. What sets Spec Ops apart is that it doesn't separate gameplay from theme. Shooting mechanics, scene direction, and even the interface gradually begin to work against the player, amplifying a sense of discomfort and moral pressure. In an era where many shooters avoid challenging subjects, The Line feels especially modern. Vanquish is built around one core idea, maximum speed, and executes it in a way few games still dare to attempt. Jet-assisted boosts let you literally slide across the battlefield, instantly change positions, trigger slow motion, and fire at insane speeds. Instead of a traditional cover-based shooter, every encounter becomes an aggressive dance where the goal isn't to hide, but to keep moving and overwhelm enemies with constant pressure. Beneath the visual chaos lies a system of suit overheating, resource management, and precise timing, forcing you to think ahead rather than simply hold the trigger. Vanquish feels like a game made for a braver industry, and that's exactly why it still feels fresh and bold today. Mirror's Edge. It stands out through its radical minimalism, which makes the game visually timeless. Clean white surfaces, bright color accents, and the absence of visual noise turn the city into a space where the player intuitively understands where to go next. This art direction isn't just stylish, it's functional, directly tied to gameplay, and works better than many modern interfaces overloaded with markers and hints. The gameplay is built around the feeling of movement. Running, jumping, sliding, and chaining parkour moves flow together into a smooth rhythm where maintaining speed and momentum is key. Combat is secondary. The game encourages avoiding fights and finding routes instead. Mirror's Edge doesn't feel like a product of its time, but rather a concept the industry still hasn't fully caught up with. Sleeping Dogs. It takes the familiar open-world formula and shifts the focus away from gunplay toward hand-to-hand combat inspired by Hong Kong action films. Fights feel brutal and cinematic. Contextual takedowns, environmental interactions, and fluid animations make every brawl dynamic and visually striking. Even today, this melee system feels fresher than what many newer open-world games offer. This is reinforced by the atmosphere of a living city, where the story is organically woven into everyday life. Missions naturally grow out of the environment, whether it's underground fight clubs, police operations, or the protagonist's personal conflicts. Sleeping Dogs feels modern not because of technology, but thanks to confident direction and a strong, unique identity that still stands out years later. Heavy Rain. Instead of complex mechanics, the game focuses on maximum player involvement. Every action, from simple everyday movements to tense chase sequences, becomes an interactive element. Gesture-based controls, contextual actions, and constant player participation create the feeling that you're not watching the story, but actively living it. Even today, this level of immersion is rare among narrative-driven games. Heavy Rain's greatest strength is how it ties gameplay to emotional choice. You can't simply reload and pick a different option. Decisions have consequences, and tension is built not through action, but through responsibility. In an era where many narrative games are returning to similar ideas, Heavy Rain doesn't feel outdated, but rather ahead of a trend the industry only fully embraced years later. Red Faction: Armageddon. The game takes its signature feature, destruction, and makes it the core of the gameplay. The environment isn't just a backdrop, but a full-fledged tool. Walls, cover, and structures can be destroyed, reshaping the battlefield in real time. This forces constant adaptation, encouraging you to find new positions and use space dynamically rather than relying on preset layouts. This is complemented by weapons and tools built around physics rather than raw damage. Unique guns let you pull enemies in, tear structures apart, or even rebuild destroyed objects. This approach makes combat both tactical and spectacular. Even today, when many shooters rely on scripted destruction, Armageddon still feels like a bold and unconventional experience. Deadlight. Deadlight immediately draws you in with its visual minimalism, which perfectly matches the bleak post-apocalyptic atmosphere. The game uses a restrained color palette, silhouettes, and lighting to convey a sense of loneliness and desolation. The lack of visual clutter keeps the image clean and stylish, which is exactly why it still looks great years later. The gameplay focuses not on action, but on survival and traversal through a hostile world. Jumping, climbing, stamina management, and limited resources create constant tension. Every mistake feels meaningful, and every successful crossing feels like a small victory. Deadlight remains relevant because its design is built on atmosphere and sensation, not on technology that inevitably ages. Battlefield: Bad Company 2. It still stands out for how destruction directly affects gameplay rather than serving as a visual backdrop. Cover is temporary. Walls are blown apart, buildings collapse, and positions are constantly shifting. This forces players to think on the fly, change routes, and adapt to the chaos of battle. As a result, Every firefight feels dynamic and unpredictable, a quality often missing even in modern multiplayer shooters. The sound design and weapon feel deserve special mention. Gunfire hits with weight, explosions feel physical, and distance and direction are easy to read by sound alone. The maps are designed to support different playstyles, from aggressive assaults to careful support roles. It's this combination of tactical freedom, destruction, and audio design that makes Bad Company 2 feel surprisingly relevant even today. Split Second. It takes traditional arcade racing and turns it into an interactive spectacle of destruction. The tracks aren't static backdrops, but living arenas that can be reshaped in real time during a race. Collapsing bridges, exploding buildings, and altered routes don't just look impressive, they directly affect player positions and racing strategy. The game's greatest strength lies in its tight rhythm and controls. Despite the visual chaos, handling remains responsive, and the sense of speed is perfectly readable. The game rewards risk and smart use of stored power for environmental destruction at the right moment. Even today, Split Second feels fresh, because the genre still rarely achieves this balance between spectacle and gameplay. The Saboteur. It stands out primarily for its unique visual language. Occupied Paris is presented in stark black and white, and only as districts are liberated does color gradually return to the city. This isn't just a stylish choice, it's directly tied to progression and the feeling of player impact on the world. Even years later, this artistic approach feels fresh and expressive. From a gameplay perspective, the game blends stealth, parkour, and sabotage, focusing on undermining enemy infrastructure rather than head-on action. The Saboteur doesn't try to be everything at once. It confidently commits to atmosphere, style, and the core idea of resistance. Risen 2. It stands apart from most RPGs of its time thanks to its pirate theme and a more grounded approach to character progression. There's no traditional level-based stat scaling. Progress is driven through training with mentors, skill choices, and equipment. This creates a sense of deliberate growth. Every new ability is the result of a decision, not an automatic upgrade. That kind of design feels surprisingly modern compared to many RPGs where progression has long become a formality. Firearms, traps, dirty tricks, and environmental awareness all play an important role in combat, especially against tougher enemies. Combined with island exploration, faction conflicts, and freedom in playstyle, Risen 2 feels like a game that never tried to chase trends, and that's exactly why it has aged so well. Homefront, The Revolution. It stands out for its attempt to combine an open world with tactical shooting, where combat isn't built around linear firefights, but around preparation and improvisation. Players are encouraged to use traps, distractions, drones, and modular weapons. Encounters often begin in stealth and escalate into chaotic street battles, making each scenario feel distinct. The game is especially interesting on the level of local conflicts and urban resistance. The world is divided into zones with varying degrees of enemy control, and the player's actions gradually change the situation. Allies appear, new opportunities open up, and pressure points emerge. This approach to an open world, where progress is reflected not in checklist completion, but in shifts in atmosphere and tension, still feels relevant today. These games prove a simple truth: technology ages, but strong game design does not. They remain compelling not because they mattered once, but because they still matter now. Years change graphics and trends, but they don't change how a well-made game feels. That's exactly why these projects are worth returning to. The Image Game Channel was with you. Have a nice day.